Okay, because we're right at 2 right now. 2:01 actually.
And I think
Says
we
it's-
got, I
It
think
says
we,
it's being live streamed now.
it does. I'm gonna log into our YouTube and make sure that it is streaming before I give you the go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's being live.
You're good to go, Eddie.
Okay, we are calling this meeting together. And thank you all for being here today. We do have a quorum present, is that correct?
That is correct.
I'm asking staff that question. Okay. As you can see from the agenda, we're going to cover several items. And number one, welcome to all of you. And live streaming is something that we started this morning. Is that not correct? I think that was on that other meeting also, wasn't it? Right, April.
Yep, we're having some issues with getting it to stream, but we're going now.
There you go. Good enough. Okay, we need to approve the minutes, and well, they were a long time ago. But anyway, I'd stand a motion for approval.
This is Tiffany Anderson. Motion to approve the minutes.
And a second?
Curtis seconds.
There we go. Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, Tiffany. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The discussion agenda. Most of you should have received in your packet the proposed TEA member institution assignments for this year. And does anyone have any concerns about those as they were sent out? Curtis, you and Tiffany are on here, of course, and concerns you might have.
No, sir.
None? Okay. Tiffany?
No, I don't have any concerns. I'm pleased with, of course, always having Washburn Tech and anytime there's a second school, which this time there is, and I'm excited to start visiting Flint Hills.
Great. Great school. Matter of fact, there's not a school on here that's not terrific. And that's a thrill, frankly, when the TEA members do visit those institutions at least one time during the academic year to basically familiar themselves with the programs that are offered and learn about the challenges that they are facing. And we try always, and the chairman always makes sure this happens, that they have an opportunity then to report to the regular TEA meetings, summarizing their visit. And the other thing that these are expectations, by the way, at least every 6 months, the TEA member should meet or speak with the assigned institution president to stay current on specific issues relating to the college. And many of our TEA members are really great about getting that done, and we think that's really important. Did any of you have any other comments about the assignments? Okay, moving on. The second thing on the agenda today is, to me, B and C definitely tie together, in my opinion. Now, that's just my opinion. But if we're going to do a really good job with everything that we're trying to do here, we do need to enhance communication with the schools, the students, the parents, and the legislators. To me, that's very, very important to do. And then, Dr. Anderson, what we can do, like you do occasionally in those meetings, which I very much appreciate, by the way, is bring those informational things right to the table. And that has always been critically important to me, at least, to see exactly where we're at, because without us communicating effectively with the students, obviously, the prospective students, we're not doing our job. Because without them, as Richard Petty told me one time, without them, Eddie, there ain't no me. And that's the way it ought to be. We need to make certain that we're doing a really good job of communicating with all those different groups. And the legislators, as you know, which we did for many years at the summit each year, they were invited guests. And they have expressed to me concerns about that because obviously we got shut down last year for all those reasons that you know about at that time in Topeka. But long story short, I would treasure your comments on this issue.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I guess it would help me. This is a discussion that preceded my coming onto this committee, but first of all, it strikes me that we've got two fairly distinct, at least two distinct kind of audience groups covered in that one sentence. So I would tend to think of the legislators as a different lane of communication than the high schools and the parents, et cetera. But it would help me to get a better idea of what is the content with respect to the schools and the districts and the students and the parents that we need to amplify more. Are we talking about just the value of the sort of education that our institutions are providing and the sorts of career paths that those open up, or what do we mean, if I may?
Okay, Dr. Anderson, I'm going to ask you to respond to that. And your thoughts about that?
Well, and for those that have been, thank you. And for those that have been on this as well, feel free to chime on in, but I have been on it just for a couple of years. And Member Sneeden, from the experiences I have had, it has really been more about, well, initially advertising and marketing and highlighting the positive things that are actually going on in schools across the state that may not be highlighted currently in high schools and other school districts. The other thing is that there used to be the conference and the attendance of that, encouraging school districts to send individuals to that was another component of advocacy for CTE and technical schools. So it really was more about making sure that there was greater awareness. So we talked about social media as well as making sure that those individuals also knew what was available. I mean, that really was a portion of the focus. And then I really think that was maybe adjusted when the shutdown occurred and the pandemic occurred. I mean, all of those things changed the conference. It changed the desire and attention for most school leaders in terms of what they were really putting their attention to. It was PPE equipment. And not that they were overlooking or neglecting any of these other areas, but what was priority was matters related to the pandemic. So I think now that we're back, it's an opportunity really for everybody that's now on this space to talk about what do we want that to look like, and do we still feel like there's advocacy in some way in marketing that needs to better happen. I would, share that the parent component perhaps was less of a conversation of focus at that time, and whether we choose to do that. And I agree with you that the legislators almost is it's really its own piece, which could also be tied to some of the parent component of advocacy from a marketing standpoint. That could have its own little leg, truly. Is that helpful at all, Member Sneeden?
Yes, it is. What would I think also help me would be maybe hearing from, say, Jim or anybody else from the school side who might be able to give us some insights into, as they recruit students, a sense they may have as to part of the messaging that isn't getting through, or that we could help with, or how we could sort of support them in the minds of the students and their parents.
Curtis, if I may, I'm going to call on James now. He represents the technical colleges and does a great job representing them at our normal meetings there. James, you're on.
Yeah.
Sir. How about that?
You got to put up with me for another year. Sorry.
Good.
Good questions and discussion. I think one thing to remember, this group is more aware than others, but tech ed still carries a bit of a stigma in certain areas as VOTech, and nothing was wrong with VOTech in the old days, but every time somebody calls Manhattan Tech or Flint Hills Tech, oh yeah, you were the VOTech. We were the VOTech. We're a technical college. And so part of the advocacy that you all have been great with over the years, that's one key part of it, is to get people to recognize my accreditation, Flint Hills accreditation, Neosho Community College's accreditation is the same as KU or K-State. We are a higher education institution. Of course, we like to spell it here at Manhattan Tech the way Eddie likes it, H-I-R-E.
Thank you.
But
There you go.
that constant keeping people aware of what we are doing, that we don't just teach a kid how to change oil anymore. We're teaching people how to do data analytics. We're teaching them how to do applied and advanced technologies in a variety of areas that keep each of our communities running. The universities have their role, but the two-year colleges, I think we get less recognition than we should get for how we keep a lot of places going. Healthcare in rural areas. In the next few days when the temperature is 109 and you need somebody to fix your air conditioner, odds are the tech that comes to your place probably got the training at a community or tech college. So that kind of awareness, as well as in the last several years, the additional frosting on the piece is the earnings they can have, the salary, no student debt, fantastic job, great salary, which often leads into them running their own business or taking over a small business. So it's just a matter of reminding everybody we run into about that role that we all play to keep tech ed, skilled tech ed, is a vital part of the state.
High demand, high wage, and that's where it's at and will always be because of the tremendous job that is being handled by our community colleges and tech colleges. They are absolutely unbelievable, particularly when we had the summit and we had 8 states there and they left going to their states and trying to duplicate some of the things that are happening here, which we're extremely proud of that because it's great for those young people because they do have an opportunity that they just can't get anywhere else that I'm aware of anyway.
And if I can add one more thing real quick.
Yes.
Wallet Hub, a financial services company in the nation, does a ranking every year, the best and worst two-year colleges. It's like anybody that does a ranking, that's who knows. But this year, State Technical College in Missouri has been #1 in their poll, in their ranking the last 2 years, best two-year college in the country. But this year, the second best happens to be Manhattan Tech. Pratt Community College came in at 18th in the nation. So again, we hear about university rankings all the time, and a ranking is great if you get a good one and it's lousy if you got a bad one. But that kind of recognition, again, reinforces we're very legit in doing higher education, applied technology, and the role that plays in the communities. So whether it's what the Chronicle says, Wallet Hub, Georgetown University, et cetera, keeping those things in front of the public eye is also important.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would say that if we're talking about helping parents and students get over whatever stigma is still there, and I agree with you, James, that's still probably kind of a thing to some degree, but I just came from a meeting this morning with a bunch of business leaders talking to Congressman Turner, and to a person, they're struggling with workforce, and not to a person, nobody raised their hand and said, what can you do to churn out more 4-year graduates for us to hire. I mean, no offense to the other institutions, but I mean, there's a fairly easy story to tell to any parent who needs persuading that this is a path for their kiddo that is virtuous and probably lucrative. I guess that would be somehow getting that story told, and maybe it would involve hearing, some sound bites from some CEOs saying, you'll have a job with me if you go to Manhattan Tech or, whatever. Maybe that's what parents need to hear. If I'm kind of playing back what you just said, James, in terms of that stigma thing.
Members needing to that point, and I guess I start talking right. I think you just came off mute, Mr. Gannett. I'll turn it over to you, and then mention some things we did previously that we may want to bring back to the table. And it was some advertisement that the tech colleges looked at, and they gave us numbers. And Mr. Gannett was one of those that, really gave us some data. And it was a nice, easy flyer that anybody could give out. We could put it on the website. We could send it out virtually. And it really just gave some facts about the tremendous success these colleges are having. So that was really where the focus was previously. And certainly we can at least bring that back to our committee to say, here's what we did before. So we don't have to start from scratch and perhaps build from that. My apologies, sir. I'll turn it over to you.
You're right on target. And the cool thing with both the tech and community colleges and our tech programs, we have advisory committees of regional employers. So they're talking to our students almost from day one, and they get that internship or that practicum with that employer. But I think it's probably more important now to get those employers to step up to city commissions, county commissioners, legislators about we need this investment in tech ed. I mean, we have good resources. Everybody that's been on this group and your predecessors have helped us get there. And yet when you look at the importance of having a skilled workforce, the resources we have still isn't quite enough. And so it's that investment of how can we get more high school people, more adult education students who are getting that GED, getting them trained. How can we grab more exiting soldiers from our military installations? Those are all critical to drive that workforce, but it takes some investment.
And Member Steen, just to add and complicate the issue a little further, both at the state and federal level, there is no budget for marketing. So that becomes even harder. So if we're trying to change the perception, however, have no money to do so, all we can really do are kind of grassroots documents, that kind of stuff. So we could get the committee kind of everything that we have so far, but without any dollars to back it to actually run big ads or have a website or anything like that, it does make it very difficult to make a complete cultural change if there's no money to back that.
Have we done anything with the counselors? Because that's always been one of the larger problems that we've had in the schools, is really getting the counselors on board to recommend technical education, and not just for the troubled students, not just for the poor students, but for everybody, and make that be an option. And that's really been a difficulty with the counselors when it comes to technical education. So if there's anything that we've done education-wise or could recommend education-wise for the counselors in this space.
The one thing that I know that we have done is we have presented at CACRO. So that is the Kansas Association of Registrars and Admission Counselors. That's a lot of the colleges attend that, but also the high school counselors. Now, how far that message is trickled down is beyond me. So Dr. Anderson, if you had any suggestions, we'd be happy to hear those.
Well, and I was just looking for the flyer we previously used to send that to you so that you have that for the group, since it's been a few years since we've used that. But I would agree with you. That's one wonderful venue for the counselors as well. But there are a couple of other local and state wide public health, as well as counselors, and even the education associations that meet. Perhaps that's another venue. And then, of course, there's just the tried and true the Kansas Principals Association to say, we'd like for you to give this to your counselors, so I think there's a this and that. And as you said so well, what we're doing doesn't cost us, it costs us time. The marketing piece, since we do have a team in Topeka Public Schools, we just kind of helped create some of that flyer marketing piece. We needed it for our own district anyway. So it was helpful to kind of highlight what all these different places are doing. And just the ask of superintendents can they put that in their next parent newsletter? Can they put that on their webpage? Can they direct people accordingly? One thing we haven't done is FaceTime and outside of these conferences, in terms of now that Zoom is so commonly used, we certainly could have Zoom FaceTime with saying, we'd love for people to sign on or to have a designee, so that we can share all the CTE offerings before students start signing up. And, of course, the best time is, the FAFSA is going to be delayed this year, but the best time is somewhere around that piece. That might be some pieces. It stood out to me this year, at least for Topeka High and Highland Parks was last night, that we really didn't have information. We had our own CTE information, but really not, from a TEA perspective, information out on tables for parents. But, you had the military there, you had KU and Gay-Sade and all these other people there. We don't have to have someone at a table. It could just be material at a table. And I wonder if we asked people to put that out at their back to school nights and their parent conference nights, would that be a step that we haven't taken? Those are at least some options that come to mind on the K-12 end.
Dr. Anderson, I hear a lot regarding the counselor issue. And what I thought we might consider doing here is Zooming all of the counselors at one time, just to see how many would actually jump on board and listen to our story. Compact as it may be, but statistical, it could be very helpful to them to realize what they could really do, Cindy. And that's kind of where, to me, that's their first contact and last in many cases in the high schools. And I don't mean that the way it sounded, but I just think it would be great if they had a lot better idea and concept of what they could be doing to make certain these young people end up in programs that could be very beneficial. Nothing drives me nuttier than to think that you can go through some programs and there's no job. That's not the case in our schools, not in this group right here. By golly, you'll have a job and you'll have a high-paying, high-wage job. We need to be proud as the dickens of that and make certain there's not a soul on this earth that doesn't know it. That's the way I see it anyway. So anyway, other thoughts that any of the rest of you have? I think this has been extremely productive today, by the way, and I appreciate all of you very much.
Just a question on next steps of actionable steps. And I wonder if people like President Ganander and others who are on this call wanted to be on a Zoom. And if we were offering something for counselors, it'd have to be very, it'd have to be very good information and compact, perhaps it's a good word, but information where they're coming and really just getting here are some of the schools, here's what they offer. You may not know this. And I know these colleges do it in their own area, but, we're encouraging people to go even beyond the county that they live in, and to look at services across in other areas that they may move in. So if that's an actionable step, just whoever takes that direction. And whoever we're going to send that to, I think we just need to, for clarity for that. And then if you do want the flyer from before, I can send that. And if we want to revise and update that, it's now 4 years later. We certainly, I'm more than happy to volunteer since we probably have the document handy. We certainly can do that. Just need some actionable step to direct us accordingly as to next steps.
Yes, would you share that, April? Would that be okay if we tied that to you?
Absolutely.
Dr.
That's what I was going to
Anderson,
mention. We could probably pull all those documents that we currently have together for our next meeting. The other thing we could do, Jim, since you're on here, I'm going to tag you with this, but maybe we get together, maybe start a presentation. What do we believe would be most useful to counselors? Once we kind of have something set, show it to this committee, maybe get KSDE to weigh in, and then maybe try to do a webinar series with some high school counselors.
Yeah, all good ideas. I think when you get boots on the ground, you're going to find that almost all of us have pretty good contacts with our area schools. We pay a stipend to almost every high school we work with for the counselor to help us, as well as put our staff in place. So there's a lot of that going on.
right.
I think a key thing to consider is the fact that KBOR has gone to a lot of time and effort the last several years with their website and the information that's available on the website where you can look for programs, colleges, et cetera. You've got a great tool there. So I think part of it may be a webinar open to counselors or parents to show them how to drive the KBOR website looking for information and how to do a follow-up with the schools they're interested in. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. I think the information's all there. It's getting people to understand, here's where I got to go and click this, click that, and go.
Right, which is really one of the things that is enhancing communication. When it's already there, like James just said, well, let's enhance it then. Not just talk about it, let's get her done. Okay. Any other comments? I again, I appreciate all of you very much and your suggestions.
Mr. Chair, just real quick, I had a question for April on the funding. I want to make sure I understood the issue there. It is that the streams of revenue currently at our disposal are marketing isn't an eligible expense. But if other forms of revenue were identified that could be used potentially.
Correct.
Would
Correct.
that be accurate? Okay.
Correct. So how we're funded like basically any other state agency, like, so how we all get a paycheck. So the money that goes out to like Excel and CTE or to the colleges for tuition, none of that stays in our office for any kind of operation. So unless the legislature actually gives us money for marketing, we don't have it. I think right 2013, we had money to market, and we had some posters and some videos that I think are still on our YouTube, but we have not had dollars since then. So that makes it a little more difficult. But if we were able to tap into some kind of grant opportunity somewhere, yeah, we could, if the activity fell within that grant, requirements, of course we could do it. We can do it very minimally with Perkins, but even that federal money, it's really clamped down on what we can do and what we can't do.
Especially now they are, right, April, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Other comments?
And Chair
Okay.
Estes, I don't have another comment, but I do have to back us up just one step. So the proposed member institutions, we need to take a vote so that this committee's vote will then carry forward to the full TEA. And then you guys to decide if you want it to go on the consent agenda or you want us to actually talk about it on discussion, just so everyone knows what you guys expect of them visiting those institutions.
Okay, April, I'll let you then determine exactly how you would like that motion presented.
Well, I can't give you the motion, but I can tell you that to add into it, that staff would probably suggest that this goes on the discussion agenda. If you guys approve that this is the layout that you like, approve that, and then we'll take it to the full committee or full TEA to get a final vote for.
Okay, thank you. And I know April can't do that, but she just did. So that is what we're going to vote on at this point in time. Do I hear a motion supporting that motion?
Yeah, Curtis will move that.
Thanks, Curtis. Second?
Second vote.
Second, this is Tiffany Anderson.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay. Any other backing up we need to do, April, at this point? Are we all caught up then?
We
Yeah,
are all caught
you
up and you guys
brush that
can
by.
move forward to your goals, although I think we kind of, within the last discussion, established a couple goals. We want to see what's already out there, kind of look at where we can go in the future.
My thought, and that's why I said when we started this whole discussion, was they're really tied together. B and C on this agenda, to me, made sense that we would make those what we're trying to accomplish here. And I'm not sure we need to change anything on that at this point, unless we need to say that differently. What's your thought on that, April?
No, I think how it's written right here works, but I think now we have some actionable steps that we can take to make this happen.
Okay.
So yeah, the committee would have to decide if you want to stick with that one goal or you want to change it, add to it. But at least we have steps for that particular goal.
Thoughts from the group? Any of you concerned about us in that regard?
Well,
yes.
again,
Chris?
I'm new to this discussion, but it looks to me like the goal as stated is confined to school districts, whereas the discussion just now was a little broader than that. Is that okay, or do we?
Yep, we can actually expand. So improve communication with schools.
You said parents, students, and then
Yeah,
I don't know,
legislators. So
Can we
basically
say
take this
stakeholders?
language.
Would
Stakeholders.
stakeholders capture that?
Tell
We
us
could.
what, Curtis. What do you want in there that's not?
Well, I get in my head, it felt like, the counselors were a big audience, but that's within the school umbrella. But the parents and the students were a pretty important audience here too. So I think if I would suggest we, improve communications with school districts, parents, students, legislators, and other impacted stakeholders. I mean, if you think about it, maybe the business community is also a likely audience for some of what we're trying to get across too. So that gives us a little more field to play in, I think, maybe.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Agree.
Now, do you have that jotted down, somebody?
I do. I have that jotted down, and staff will work on that sentence, send it back out to the committee. So basically we're going to expand so it doesn't just say school districts. We're going to specifically include the counselors, the parents. I think the business, that makes perfect sense, the legislature and any other impacted stakeholders. So we'll expand that statement and send it out to you guys.
Good deal. Oh, Curtis, that's very true. A lot of times we do things and then we forget that there are people who are going to hire these folks. I don't mean that in a bad way. You know, Curtis, what I'm saying there.
You bet.
It's just the way it is sometimes. And yet they're basically the ones that, they're just waiting on them right now. I don't know any companies right now in all the ones that we're involved with that don't need help. And they also need qualified help. And they can't do some things now because they can't get supplies. They can't get anything to build the products with. And then yet they don't have anybody to do it. They need people that are qualified and have had higher education, HIRE. There you go. That's what it's all about.
That is the epidemic. It's the most wide-reaching, common bit of input I receive from business owners all day, every day. I mean, it's the thing. So,
wow, no, totally understand that, Curtis. That's for sure. Are there any other comments or any other matters at this point to take up with this committee? Okay, the next time we meet this committee will meet on the 14th of September. And I would now call for adjournment. Okay, we're going to adjourn. And happy trails to you till we meet again. See you later. Take care. Cowboys
Bye-bye.
never, ever say goodbye. We say, see you later. Don't forget that. You'll feel better if you just say it. See you later. Take
See
care.
you later.
All right. There you go. How cool is that, huh? Ooh. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so very much.